Hello and welcome to another IB Mathematical Studies video. In this one we're going to be looking at sequences and series. You probably know if I've heard about these before. These are very important in the IB exam, so let's go ahead. All it really is a list of numbers, and we're going to be looking at two types of sequences, arithmetic and geometric. And of them, on top of understanding what they are, we're going to need to know how to calculate the nth term of both of them and the series of both of them. You see that it's not very hard to do. These are easy points in the exam, okay? So sequences, what's a sequence? A sequence is just a list of numbers. Not just any list of numbers, it's a list of numbers that follow a pattern. Now the pattern could be of many different ways. For this particular IB exam, you need to know the arithmetic and the geometric pattern. Another important notion is that of the position of an element. Okay, so for example, the second element of these sequences is going to be this one, and 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 this one here. That's the second element of these sequences. It doesn't mean that the value is 2. The value here happens to be 2, coincidence, but the value here is 4, and the value here is going to be 0, and the value here is going to be 4, and the value here is going to be 6, etc., etc., and 1/5. So it's not the same thing to have the value and the position. Now, for the first type of sequence is going to be the arithmetic sequence. So the arithmetic sequence is basically this kind of sequences are all arithmetic sequences. So what does it make it to be an arithmetic sequence? Is that we're adding a constant number. That's what really makes it different. So you keep adding a constant, which we call the difference, or just for short we call it D. And that's how we calculate an arithmetic sequence. We just take one element and subtract the previous element. So for example, we can take the fourth element of this one, subtract -3, and -6 minus -3 is going to be the same thing as -6 plus 3, and it's going to give us -3. So that's the difference. We keep adding -3, which is the same thing as subtracting 3. So the difference here would be -3. So that's what we're doing with arithmetic sequences, just keep adding a constant number. In geometric sequences, what we're doing is we're actually multiplying by a constant number. That's an important difference to keep in mind. In one you're adding and in the other one you're multiplying. Easy, right? So we call it the ratio instead of the difference, and we designate it by R instead of D. And to calculate it, well, the only thing you do is you have to divide one element by the previous one. So here, we could take 25 and divide it by 5, and it would give us the ratio, which would be 5. It's as easy as that. It's not that difficult. It's important to keep in mind when you have to figure out whether a sequence is geometric or arithmetic, is that you have to look at the sequence and keep in mind if the distance between the elements is always the same. Here it's 2, but here it's 4. And here it's 8, and here it's 16. So it can't be an arithmetic sequence. Most of the times, if it's not an arithmetic sequence, let's be practical. In the exam, it probably is going to be a geometric sequence. So just make the division and see if it applies. So now we know what a geometric sequence and an arithmetic sequence is. Now we can talk about the nth term, which we can also call the general sequence. Very important. So let's be practical. Suppose that you have to figure out the 20th element of the sequence. Remember, it's the position. It's not the value. It doesn't mean that it's 20. It means that it's in the 20th position. Very important difference. You can just write them down, or you can have a little formula that's going to tell you what it is. And that's what the nth term is. It's the little formula, which is very useful and practical. And that's going to be an important thing you need to do. Chances that you have to calculate the nth term formula for a sequence in the exam are very high. So you better learn how to do it. Now take a look at these. See if you can find out a way to calculate the nth term of the formula. These two are geometric and this one's arithmetic. So the formula here is going to have a D, and the formula for these ones is going to have an R. So what is the formula? Well, here you have the formulas. Look at these elements here. These are the actual formulas. So for the first position, it's going to be n equals 1. So it's going to give me 2. For the second position, it's going to be n equals 2. So it's going to give me 2 times 2, which is 4. Third position, 2 times 3 is 6. So this seems to work. For the sixth position, 2 times 6 is 12. So here we go. We calculated the A6. For the 20th position, 2 times 20 is 40. Great. That's easy, right? How about this one here? Well, this one here is also it's a geometric sequence. So R is going to be 3. And it's going to be 3 to the power of n. Oops, this one 2 was the D. And here R is 3. So to calculate a to the 6, we just have to put 3 to the power of 6. And that's going to give us 729. And to calculate a20, we just have to put 3 to the power of 20. And that's going to give us a very big number that I'm not going to write here. But we can just put 3 to the power of 20. And the same applies for the other one. So that's how to calculate the nth term in general sequence. To be more precise, here's a good explanation of how to do it. Because often the first element of the sequence is not always going to be 0. So for example, you might have an arithmetic sequence that starts like we had before at -9. And you're just adding 3, but it's different if you start at -9 than if you start at 1 or if you start at 0. So we'll calculate D in the arithmetic sequence, and then we just put it in the formula here. And that's how we get the nth term. For the geometric sequences, we calculate R, remember it's just dividing 1 by the previous one, and we just stick it in this formula. That's all we need to do. And now for the series. Well, when you calculate, for mathematical studies, you're not going to be needing this one. When we calculate the sum of the series, all we have to do, what it means is, for example, for an arithmetic sequence, if I have a n equals, let's say 1 plus 2n, well, this would be the sequence here. This would be 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. The sum is going to be adding them up, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7. And the same thing applies for the geometric sequences. You just add up the terms. So to find the sum of n terms of an arithmetic series, the sum of the nth term, which is also called the arithmetic series, we just put them in this formula and it's going to give us the sum. And the same thing applies for geometric sequences. So these are the formulas. You don't need to learn because you have it in your formula book, but you definitely need to know how to use them and when to use them. So that's all. Thank you very much for watching.